Cool. All right. Um, so should we? I just want to say really quick, and then we'll do the prayer. But I want to say that on this call, we want to ask all of you. Hey, Flo. We want to ask all of you to start thinking ahead of time right now about a question we're going to ask you later. But I want you to start thinking, what is something that has been pulling you towards it? Like something that you've wanted to do, that you've been called to do, something you've been told you need to do, something that you know, okay, that's the next step. When's the right time? How do I do it? How do I figure it out? What's the first step? Who do I need to meet for this to happen, right? What is it that you've known was next? Like some big thing that you knew was coming. What is that? So just start thinking of that. And we're going to start, whoever wants to go first, obviously in a minute. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So we can, you can start posting it here but I want to start pulling you on and actually talk about it. What's going on.
Yeah, and how we can support you in that.
Yeah. So actually, why don't you post some if you have an idea, why don't you post it? If you know what it is, just post it, and then I'll kind of look for some interesting ones. Maybe we'll pull the interesting ones up. Do you want to start us off with a prayer?
Yeah, let's just start with a little unifying prayer. Let's just close our eyes and just feel yourself coming in this space in this moment. And God, we thank you so much for bringing us all together from all across the world. And God, we just ask you to fill us tonight with the power of your Holy Spirit, Lord. We just ask that each and every one of us would be renewed, be rejuvenated, be invigorated, be connected, that we would be purified, that we would, all confusion would be removed. All clouds of confusion would be removed, that we would be clear in our knowing. And that from that clarity, that we would be able to take guided action on our life mission to work together to fulfill the life mission that we've been called in to fill, God. We know that you've placed us all here together for a very important reason. And we know that your hand is guiding us every step of the way. And God, we just ask that your hand be over each and every person on this call, that your presence and your protection, your grace, your divine grace would be over each and every person on this call, that even in times of trouble, even in times of fear, that through you, God, a way would be made, that you would open up new possibilities, that a third door would be opened for everyone on this call that's listening that doesn't know what to do, that doesn't know where to go, that perhaps even is petrified in fear, that a way would be made, God, that you would make a way for each and every one of us. And that through that way, miracles would be delivered through us on this planet. And God, we know that each and every one of us, that you've given us such incredible gifts that you want us to bestow on this planet. And God, we just ask that you would magnify those gifts right now, that you would activate those gifts within us now, that you would make those gifts known to us right now, and that through you, those gifts would be known to the world, and that we would be able to shine your light through us in this world together. And in Jesus' name, amen.
Such a good prayer. Cool. So do you want to start?
Yeah, so I don't want to talk too much today. I actually really want to get into questions and really looking at however we can best support you, and really how we can best support each other. Again, I know each and every one of us has different guidance that's coming in, whether it be through prayer or meditation or dreams. There's so much information that's been kind of pooling in for each and every one of us. So we really want to create the space for that. But, you know, I did want to share a little bit about what has been coming through for me this week. And I did do a Facebook post on, you know, some of this earlier as well. But as many of you have known, you know, about 5.5 years ago, I was shown a vision of this particular time frame that we are in right now. And it is the reason that Ben and I moved to Costa Rica. And I am seeing visions of another potential future timeline right now. I want to be very clear. I feel extremely strongly that we are on timeline number 1 and that it is inevitable. And for those of you that are playing catch up, when I speak about timeline 1, it basically means that we're going to win and that justice is coming, okay? That as we're shifting into 5D positive, the service to others path, we are going to be rewarded and things are going to come through for us, okay? I really want to be clear on that. I'm not saying right now that I feel the timeline has shifted to timeline number 2, which is not a good timeline, right? But that being said, what I am noticing is that I do see there being some time in here. We're in a race. We're in World War III. We're in a race. We're in a chess game. We're in the middle of a chess game right now. And I'm watching that chess game being played and playing out in real time right now. And I know that many of us are really watching it. And with this particular timeline that we're on, I am watching that every move that's being made that's working toward justice, there is a counter move and often other counter moves that are happening. And so this process is pretty painstaking. And although there are so many people across the world that are waking up, which is really, really incredible, and I am seeing people band together, at the same time, there is a time delay. We're still not the majority, right? And, you know, there are quite a few different stats going around, but, you know, one of the ones that, you know, I've seen is about 30% of the people in the world, or I believe in the US right now, you know that the MSM is, you know, BS. But that actually means that about 70% of the people are still really, you know, pretty much buying into it. And there's quite a few other stats going on. You know, I think about 41% of people think Obama is like the best president we've ever had. And yeah, I don't know what your political views are, and we may have some different political views in this group, but
that just means that we don't know yet his war crimes, right? He's got a lot of war crimes. You know,
there's quite a bit. If you do your research, there's quite a bit, you know, that you can look into. So what I'm seeing is that, you know, really to get these key players out, you know, when you're playing a chess game, right, you've got to take out the peons first. You don't take out the king and queen first. You got to take out the peons first and to get to the top. There are some time delays in getting to the top of the cabal food chain that are happening in real time. And I really believe that, you know, there's only so much work that, you know, everybody that's working on this together can do without the masses waking up. There's only so far they're going to be able to get. The evidence is all there. There's so much that's been leaked. There is a lot coming out. And there's so many of us coming out that are, you know, we're just like blasting truth, right? Which is really incredible and really powerful. And then we become the news, right? This is huge and it's exciting. And at the same time, you know, there's a lot of people are stuck in the first stage of grief, which is denial, you know, and they're in hardcore denial about what's really going on. So, you know, the question we're in is how far and how long and how rapidly and how fast are the people at the top of the food chain in the cabal going to keep pushing? And they are going to keep pushing, and they are going to push hard, and there's a lot of money involved. And so I don't want to drop a negative, you know, fear-mongering bomb in the group, but I also really want us to be grounded and integrated light leaders on this planet. I want us to be mentally and emotionally, physically prepared in all dimensions of our consciousness. And many of us have been working on the spiritual piece, I think, in this group for a very, very, very long time. And I want to make sure that we're working on all, what I see as 12 dimensions of consciousness. You guys might have a different perspective on it, but all the dimensions, that we're really functioning well on all dimensions of the consciousness, and that we're really, really prepping for what, their agenda is, which is not pleasant. It's just not pleasant. Right.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And, so the reason, it's like, we're really hopeful about all this stuff happening in this big timeline, and then like the move will be made, and then
there's always a counter move. There's a block. Right? There's
and
a
then
block.
We're like, okay. And then the new move comes, the big move, and then blocked. And
that's how chess is. It's a chess game.
That's how chess is.
How war is, it's how chess is.
And what's the most interesting thing for us to watch is, we're watching all this information come out, and all this information being exposed, and all this truth coming out. And, this is why we were so excited and hopeful, something would come out. We'd be like, yeah, there it is. There's the proof, the smoking gun, right? And then, we talk about it, we post it, and then somebody just like, they don't see it or believe it or understand it or want to acknowledge it. And so it's like, okay, we felt like up until now it's been, kind of breadcrumbs. And we feel like now is just like, it's like, okay, we're standing here like eating a loaf of bread, like we're like, we're not really picking up breadcrumbs anymore. It's not just one
red pill. It's like a bottle of red pills that's going out, and people are still asleep. It's mind-boggling.
There's not a whole lot you need to like use your brain to put together at this point. There's not a whole lot of dot connecting to do. Like the dots have pretty much been connected for us, and people are still fighting it, and it's like they're getting more aggressive, and it just so that's been kind of frustrating for us. And so but what the benefit of all this evidence coming out and all these truths coming out is, for people like Jen and I who have seen this for, I've been looking at it for 2 decades, since 9/11, right. But since, for 6 years, since 6 years ago when we decided to move to Costa Rica, like we bet our life on it. Mm-hmm. We bet our life that we were right about it. Mm-hmm. And even though,
and I'd still love to be wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to be wrong. Costa Rica's still amazing. I'd love to be wrong about it. I really would.
So, but we didn't have, like, we bet our life on it 6 years ago when we didn't have the proof, right? Because we trusted our intuition. We trusted our ability to see the patterns in the way that, if they're doing this now, it's leading to this, it's eventually going to become this.
You start to track the patterns and where are they going.
And so now we're at the point where we're 6 years farther down the road, and now there's 6 years more evidence and 6 more years of people being awakened, and now there's evidence that's coming out. There's all sorts of evidence, especially in this pandemic. The thing is these, the guys that are running the show up at the top, they do this big crazy stuff, but it's hard to keep track of, and it's hard to get perfect, and it's hard to keep secret the right things and expose the right things. And so like, it can be kind of sloppy, and it's a lot of moving parts. People are like, oh, if this was a conspiracy, then how could you, how could you manage all this? How could you keep it all secret? Well, it's not all secret. It's all out there, right? It's kind of crazy. If you ever watched from JFK to 9/11, it's a rich man's trick or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's all like, it talks about like the JFK assassination, how it was supposed to go like, do, but everything just went to crap, and it was a total mess. And, so that's kind of what's happening right now. And so, but anyway, there is, what I was saying is the upside about all this, the good part about all this information coming out is for the rest of the world who has known something was off, but couldn't quite put the pieces together, or even if they had the pieces together themselves, they weren't confident enough to share or to start talking about it for fear of, well, how could I prove this? You know, what happens if they start pushing or poking holes? Because we're working on two very different burdens of proof. You know, there's, you know, one, you know, somebody on my, I put this Facebook post with some predictions and here's what's happening and here's some predictions to look for in the future yesterday. And if you haven't read it, please do. It's pretty popular right now. People are really enjoying it. And so one person posted on it, you know, I'll bet you, you know, and pick any of your major points and I'll bet you. And so I was like, oh, that's easy. Totally. Of course. Yeah, pick any point.
It's on his profile, Matthew.
Pick any point. Pick a point, any point. Pick all the points. You know, I got proof on all of them. I don't post anything I don't have proof about, you know?
Yeah.
And then I was thinking about it and I was like, wait a second. So unfortunately, we've got two different sources that we pull our truth from, right? So for someone like him, we say, okay, where's your proof? And he's like, mainstream media article.
Snopes.
Yeah,
Snopes.
You know, world, I think there's like a, what's it called? World Stats or something, where it's just like a ticker on a website that's like COVID deaths. And I was like, so I was arguing with someone about COVID deaths, and I'm like, where's your proof that this is the COVID deaths? And he's like, here's the ticker. You know, it's like, oh yeah, all right, where are they getting their stats? You know, like, okay, you can't just like send me an article from the WHO or from Bill Gates, you know, like that's widely accepted, you know, and pushed by the politicians and the government and the you know, billionaires and and all this stuff. Now our burden of proof comes from sources that maybe they don't trust, and some of it comes from us needing to put pieces together, and you know, some light connecting by association, or if this then this kind of stuff, you know, because for the rest of the world, it's really going to take them being able to see it on their TV on the mainstream saying, yes, this world is run by Satanists. And then they're still going to argue it, you know? And, you know, they're really going to have it laid out by the mainstream media. You know, that's 70% of the United States is going to have it hand fed to them by the mainstream media before they're even going to understand it, because we have very different burdens of proof. Now, the thing is that, you know, there are ways that I explain things that some people get and most people don't. And there are ways that Jen explains things that some people get and most people don't. Now, all of you have a totally different voice and maybe are not as harsh or brash or
some of you are. Some of you are. I've seen you. I've seen you. Some of you are pretty.
A lot nicer.
Some of you are pretty. We got a good group. But yeah, there's different methods of delivery, and different people need to hear things differently. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's actually really, really important. No.
Yeah. So, you know, it is gonna, you know, if you've got your own evidence, please put it out there, guys. Like now is the time to speak up about it. If you know internally that something's wrong and that something's off and that something ain't working, like it is time to take some action on this.
Yep.
And, you know, you may not have all the information to post about Bill Gates or to post about the WHO or to post about the politicians or the governments or, you know, Nazi Germany or whatever the hell's going on, but there's something that you've got inside you that needs to come out, and it will in some way be related to your business. You know, obviously everything that's happening right now, Jen and I can just say whatever the heck is coming through us because that it is our business. You know, it's linked to our entire life purpose has been since we met 8 years ago in a direct line of sight towards what's happening now and to where we're going, which includes Synergida and the homes we're selling for people that want to escape the shit show, right? And get away from the apocalypse and just know they're safe. If those of us who are supposed to be awakening the masses can't do it in time, you know, and, you know, okay, cool, then, you know, we can wait this one out. You know, okay, we've got that. We've got 5D Business School that we can sell for people that are afraid to speak their voice and link it up to their business. But whatever your business is, whether it's photography, Andrea, or I don't know what y'all are doing, but you know, I saw some messages in here about you want to create music, you want to do healing. Oh man, there's some good questions in here. You know, whatever it is that your life purpose is, it has to be linked to who you are, and that's 5D. It has to be your truth coming out. So 4D, people are basically buying your product. You have to be well presented, and you have to stay within certain boundaries that are acceptable for you know, professional business world. And people are really buying your product, right? They're buying a product. You're presenting a product. They're buying a product. That's what 4D is. 5D, they're buying you. They're buying you. That's what they're buying.
They're buying your truth.
They're buying your truth.
Yep.
It's, you know, and this is why, you know, we've sold about $12 million in Costa Rica over the last 5.5 years. And
that's just money that's moving. It's not sitting in our bank account. It's money
account.
That's moving through.
It comes and it goes.
It comes and it goes, people. I want to be real. Money is just energy that moves.
Yeah,
it's not as exciting as it all sounds. It's really not. You know, but it's money that we're
not retired
we're no,
anymore.
we were retired before we got on this project. But
yeah, we were retired before.
Now we're just pointing at where the money's going. You know, so
yeah. So, but my point is that that was my point. What was my point?
So everyone on this call has a life mission that they're being called into. And when we step into 5D, which is young spiritual adulthood, which is really the place of power. So 5D is the place of power for each and every one of us, because everyone that's here is on the service to others path, right? That's the team that we're on. And the more of us that can transition into 5D positive, it actually counterbalances the service to self path transitioning into their 5D negative, which is their justice and retribution. So I cannot emphasize enough the importance and the value of each and every one of us getting into 5D.
Yeah, and that's what it is.
Important.
So what I was saying is that with all of our new partners that have come in and people that come in to buy houses, every one of them says, you know, I'm not buying into the project. I don't care about the project. I'm buying into you guys. You know, I believe in you. I believe in your vision. I believe in what you're doing, and I believe that you see it clearly. And so this is what 5D is because Jen and I can go and spew some crazy stuff on Facebook, and as long as it's 100% us and 100% in our truth and what we believe, it's gonna connect with the other people who believe the same exact crazy shit. You know, the same people that have been seeing the same timelines coming through for years or decades. You know, those that have been paying attention. And, you know, what I've realized the other day is that, you know, and I know a lot of people have realized this before us. You know, I'm surprised it took us so long to be able to accept it. But when I've noticed that when I allow people to argue on my Facebook page, even argue with me, it gets way more attention and more, you know, shares and more comments and more likes. And it'll just, you know, I'll post something and, you know, if nobody argues on it, I'm like, can somebody argue with me about it? Maybe I'll post some memes to get somebody pissed off, right?
Just stir in the pot.
And then I'll stir the pot a little bit, and then someone will start posting. I'm like, oh, good. And I won't even argue back for a little while. I'll let other people argue with them, you know, and then and then starts a debate, right? And so I used to be like, oh no, somebody said something, I gotta, you know, unfriend them or delete the post or tell them not to argue on my Facebook post. Now I'm like, go baby, go. All right, Matt, see you later, brother.
No, he's good.
So yeah, you know, be okay with them arguing, and just back to what I was saying about 5D, like this, like whatever it is that you know that you're here to be doing, we're in a place right now where you can get this double whammy where you can speak your truths about whatever it is that you know, wake people up, stir the pot, you know, do what we're here to do, and
that's
make money off
and that's
of it.
going to speed up the timeline. It's going to speed up your personal timeline, and it's going to speed up the timeline for the collective too. So there's so many points where it's beneficial.
Like even with the photography business, Andrea, like, you know, I don't know exactly what you're posting right now, but you know, if you're posting some stuff, you know, I mean, I can see you posting some stuff for moms and,
by the way, Andrea, so a lot of the photos that I have up that I know some of you have commented on,
yeah,
a
both
lot
of
of
our photos.
a lot
She
of
came out to
those
Synergy Dad, took some awesome shots.
a lot of those are Andrea, and she is really incredible, and she makes it easy and fun too. Ben and I have worked with a lot of photographers, and she just makes everything light, easy,
You're in
and
Texas,
fun.
right?
And she really does take some of the best photos. She's incredible. Yeah, she really, really is.
Yeah, if you're in Texas and need some awesome photos, business photos.
She's incredible.
She's the one.
Yeah.
Yep. But anyway, I mean, I could see you post, like, getting your fiery Texas mama bear out there, and you know, just getting shares, you know, and getting photo clients. I mean, I don't know if that's still exactly what you're doing, but anyway, so what should we?
It looks like we might even have some questions already coming through. I'd love to jump into questions.
Yeah.
What people have going on.
Yeah, everyone's totally in the same place. They're like, I thought this would be enough.
Yeah,
You know,
you
we've
would
been
think
lied to decades.
enough.
You know, decades of lies. You know, what I think is what constantly gives me hope, even when I'm frustrated at people not waking up fast enough, is like going to Tom Hanks' Twitter feed. You know, his comments, looking at his comments,
It's a good pick me up.
or Bill Gates' comments, you know, the comments on his stuff, or Rihanna and Beyonce. I don't know which one.
Ben and I have never been super into. We just haven't never really.
So like, there's a lot of these stars where you go into their, you know, you're going.
Oh, they're just being,
and people
like,
are just hammering them, like,
Yeah.
one after another. You're going down. We know what you've done, you know. And I'm like, okay, people are waking up. Why are they still walking the streets? You know, it's like it's not even hidden anymore.
Ellen's another one that's been totally bombarded. Okay, are there any
dissonance
questions in here? If anybody has a question too, feel free to, you know, raise a hand or.
Oh, here's a question.
Okay.
COVID is a real concern, especially for people in my network, such as indigenous reservations. Yet there are those in power who are using the virus as to advance their evil agenda. How are we to reconcile? Oh, yeah, this is easy. Yeah, of course. Both sides of this for greater unity. We are all ultimately on the same team, but have different views. So that's the funny part, is that, you know, people think that just because we're saying there's some bigger agenda here and they're using COVID and they're creating this huge fear campaign about it, that it doesn't exist, or that it's this big hoax or something, right? So that's not what we're saying. Like, we understand and I know this is what you're saying too. Like, we understand that there is a real virus called COVID-19, right? And it is worse than the flu in many ways. And, you know, so what we need to reconcile is that there's a fucking cure for it called HCQ.
There's a ton of cures for
and
it.
zinc.
There's a ton of cures for it.
The president's been talking about it. It knocks it out in a few days. We don't need this whole fucking vaccine.
And any of you that know Maria Whalen, and I don't think she's on this call live right now, but any of you that know Maria Whalen, you know, she's our personal doctor, good friend that we've worked with for years. And I mean, she'll be the first one to tell you, and it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's cancer. It doesn't matter if it's MS. It doesn't matter what it is being AIDS. It's being labeled. Like, your body has the ability to heal itself, you know?
Yeah. So that's the thing is, you know, they block the cure. They're blocking the cure so that they can make money off a Maria.
Yeah, Maria is
she's the best.
She's a lifesaver. She's the best. She really is. Yeah.
So I mean, and that's the other thing, is I had someone on my feed today. If you just read the comments on my post, and not just in the comments, but I have like 73 memes. It's like a meme library that I found enjoyable, get my point across in funny and interesting ways. But somebody was commenting on one of the memes as well, and he was pissed off about you know, like, again, thinking that I don't think COVID's real. And I'm like, look, he was like, I was in the hospital for a month. I almost died. I was on a ventilator for 2 weeks. Screw you, you know, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, I ain't saying it's not real. I'm saying your doctors probably should have given you HCQ right away.
And some zinc and some vitamin C and some sunlight.
And you'd have been home in a few days, man.
Mhm.
Like, that's what you got to be pissed off about.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And they didn't need to shut down the entire country. And they didn't need to kill the economy and everybody's businesses and everybody's jobs and do all this fear mongering and make us wear masks where we're breathing our own CO2. We're creating bad bacteria. We're getting ourselves sick. People are passing out they're wearing them in their own car alone passing out while they're driving
and getting in
crashing
car
their cars.
accidents. And I'm laughing, but it's really not funny.
There was one guy that was running,
Yeah.
and one of his lungs exploded. Kids are passing out in gym class. There's like the Department of Health in, I don't know, some state, Washington or something, is like, I don't know if you saw Jen's post, is like posting.
That was Washington.
You know, where, you know, help normalize mask wearing for
wear
your
them
kids
around the house.
Wear your
while
mask
you're
while
doing
you're
dishes.
doing dishes. And then I posted, there was another one they had that was, oh, now that people are going back outside, make sure that when you're in the park, just like your kids are wearing underwear, just like your kids have to remember to put on their underwear, make sure they're putting on their mask too. And it's like a dad putting his mask on his daughter. It's like, dude, this is so bad for your immune system.
It's horrible.
You know, like, doctors are coming out and saying this, and they're silencing them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Social media is silencing these doctors that are pissed off, and they're showing the boxes that are saying, does not stop a coronavirus infection. You know, he's saying this is horrible. These masks, these paper masks, they don't do anything. They're requiring us to wear them.
Yeah, and they're not actually even effective.
But it's the same as breathing into a paper bag, you know, which we're breathing our own CO2.
Right.
You know, so this is what we've got to talk about. And this is the thing, guys. This is what, like, if you guys take one thing away from this, it's that people are going to push back because they are fast asleep. And just because they believe 100% what they say and they sound very committed to it and it sounds like proof, don't believe it.
Right.
Don't let it take you off what you know. Because I know a lot of you are empaths.
The mask is a symbol, Quina. Yeah, the mask is
a lot of you are
absolutely a
empaths.
symbol. It's a symbol of our silence.
A lot of you are empaths.
Absolutely.
So make sure that if somebody hits you with something, you don't start saying, oh, I wonder if that is true. I wonder, oh, he was in the hospital. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't be talking. You're the pro. No, it's all smoke and mirrors. This is what they do. They try to turn us against each other instead of focusing on the top. Who released the virus? Who created the virus? Why did they create the virus? Why did they give you the virus? And why are you yelling at me for trying to expose them? And for trying to show you that there's a better cure out there that, you know, okay, 100 and whatever thousand people died. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, you know, because they're you know, they've been forced to list every death as a COVID death, right? You know, it's like pneumonia deaths are like down to 0 this year from last year because flu deaths are down to 0 because they're all going into the COVID category. And of course it's all, you know, the testing is getting false positives, you know, so like they can come into our house right now with these new bills that are coming out. You know, they'll be able to come into our house, test us and say, oh, you're positive. And we're like, I ain't sick, man. I'm feeling good. And apparently if you've gotten the flu vaccine before, you're going to test positive for the antibodies of coronavirus, right? And then they can take your kids and all this stuff. And you know, it's this is what's coming soon. And so like we've got to talk about it, right? Like this is the stuff that really freaks us out. So, you know, okay, they're saying the death numbers are, you know, 100 and whatever thousand, but how many of those really were flu? How many of those were pneumonia? How many of those were slip and falls? How many of those were anything else? You know, like there are videos of Birx, Dr. Birx, B-R-I-X, at the White House saying how they're counting the deaths. And she says, basically, we're counting every death. You know, there are a lot of
Dr.
documents.
Burks, you mean? Dr. Burks?
Oh, is it Burks?
Burks.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're saying this. So, you know, there's all like, you know, and Bill Gates has his book, How to Lie with Statistics, you know.
But they just love their symbolism. They just love.
It's right there.
They just love taunting.
Right there.
They really do. They love it, you know.
So
Yeah.
stay strong, you know, and like sit back, think for yourself, like, okay, why are they arguing with me, and what can I point out about how they're actually being conned by the system too, because they're the ones that are being conned by the system the most. The people that are arguing with us, the people that are arguing with you, they're the ones that are buying the lie hook, line, and sinker.
Right.
And so, you know, they don't know any better. They think that these statistics that are on, you know, some government website or the WHO website or whatever, or the MSM are true, but
You know, one of the things I'm going to say, I want to speak to, you know, it's one thing if you're having a Facebook conversation with a random person that you've never actually met in person, you don't have a real relationship with, okay? It is another thing if you're talking to family and close friends that maybe aren't awake yet. And I really encourage you to find some common ground. If it's someone that you've known a long time that you love, find some level of common ground and place to meet them. And at the same time, really own and stand in your truth and stay and hold, because the truth is going to be what's going to set us free. And what I've been noticing is if you can get through to, you know, like with my family, I've gotten through pretty solidly to one of my sisters, like actually really, really solid. Like I'm amazed. I'm actually blown. Praise God. Okay. And because I've gotten through to her, she's starting to get through to the rest of my family, to my mom and to my other sister. And they're kind of like people will start to pop like popcorn. So if you have a network and there's someone you're close with that you've known a long time, I really encourage you to like stick with it, stay on it, take the time with it. Because people, if it's somebody that trusts you and loves you, even if they don't think you're right and think you might be a little crazy and whatever, like stand in your authority, like stand in your spiritual authority, stand in your God-given authority with people, because the truth, the energy of truth, if somebody stands in the energy of truth long enough, if you speak truth long enough, people start to feel it on an energetic level. And if it's somebody that loves you enough, even if they don't want to hear it, if you just stay in it, they will often start to hear you. It takes some time, but I've been working this with, again, one of, you know, my sister and a couple of my really, really close friends that I've known forever, but, you know, they're very, you know, what I would call more in the 3D, right? Really good people, but have really been more in the 3D. And I just kind of stuck with it and stayed with it and stayed on it. So that can be a really, you know, great way to go too.
yeah. And so let's see, it says, Amy's saying, so it's a good thing to have people angry and arguing on your posts. It really depends on if you can handle it or not. You know, if you can, and it probably, which probably depends on who it is, you know, like for me at this point, it doesn't affect me at all.
It doesn't bother me.
I get excited when somebody's arguing, because then I get to write a funny response to it. I get to play cat and mouse with them a little bit. I get to, you know, get them going a little bit, you know, stoke the fire, make a point that, so I like it. I like it at this point, because I know that, I know what happens. I know that, because I know when I see it on other people's page, like when somebody shares one of our posts, I'm like, oh, you're about to get eaten up by your friends. I can tell, because this, you know, like our people are kind of used to us, but most people aren't ready, you know, they're not used to y'all sharing stuff like that, right? So I'll see who shared it, and then I'll go look over there, and I'll see like some snarky comment, and I'm like, uh-oh, let's see how they handle this, you know? And so, you know, I know what it's like from back in the day when I would get like, ooh, I can't, oh no, somebody doesn't like it. Oh, I feel so, you know, scared and embarrassed, and, you know, oh, now I have to, now I have to spend all this time defending myself and trying to prove my points, and
You
I've
don't
got to
really-
get into
you
this
don't-
day-long
You don't try
argument.
to prove anymore. I've noticed you're not an approving thing though.
Unless it's fun for me. So here's how I do it. Here's how I do it now is if I feel like I'll get to put some real evidence in, like if somebody's got a really good point and I get to put some real evidence in, and I do it because I know it'll help you all, because I know you all are watching, because I know that you know, when somebody posts something that's really good, I'm like, oh good, somebody else, somebody's like,
Somebody else
this is just another
dumbass.
dumbass point that the mainstream media is making,
Mm-hmm.
and they're completely missing the entire point, but it sounds real because the mainstream media has brainwashed everyone to believe it's real.
Right.
So I'll engage, and sometimes it just like looks like a quip or something, but I do it because I know that some of you, anybody who knows that they need to be posting this stuff and sees it as truth, is going to be looking at it and feel like they'll read that comment and their stomach will turn in knots and like, oh no, poor Ben or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll, you know, and then I'll be able to kind of post that, and then you get to see, oh, that wasn't so bad. Oh yeah, the truth is always the truth, no matter what kind of bullshit way they try to spin it.
It's true.
As long as we're living in truth and staying in truth and poking holes in lies, truth will always be more powerful. And there's so much evidence there. I've, you know, like the one guy that, you know, he said, are you willing to wager on it? You know, are you willing to wager on some of your major posts? And I was like, he's like, put your money where your mouth is. I was like, baby, I put
a lot
my
of money where my
entire
mouth
life
is.
where my mouth is 6 years ago when
I
I moved my
I
family
moved
to
with
Costa
my
Rica
2
in
kids
preparation for
and
this.
what was it, 8 suitcases and 2 dogs, and left a house full of
Yeah, I said, all you got to do to
furniture.
put your money where your mouth is stay inside. You know, you're betting on the status quo, baby. You know, here's the thing: if you're wrong, you know, if you're wrong about COVID, you know, being the worst thing in the world, and it's not that bad, you know, okay, you're wrong. Who cares? You know, that's great. If I'm wrong, oh no, sorry, other way around. If I'm wrong about COVID and what's going on, and you know the dark side, you know, taking over. If I'm wrong, it's not a big deal. If he's wrong, it's a very big deal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if he's saying, you know, it's everything's okay except for this virus. It's the virus. That's the only thing that's going on. It's the virus. You're wrong. Then okay, the virus is wrong. You stayed inside. Good job. You know, we're done.
Fiona just asked about the visions.
Sorry, I'm
so
confused.
as far as the visions, and I see things in energy also, and I feel energy. So here's what I'll share with you. 5.5 years ago, almost 6 years ago now, when I was having visions of this time frame, I was basically seeing the level of control. I was seeing the military. I was seeing the tanks was one of the things I was shown. And I was having regular dreams about the sound of music in America. It's interesting. So my guides like to show me different visuals, but it's the feeling was the heaviness of like, oh, Nazi Germany. Okay. It's the feeling of what we're in. So that's the way. And I said, Ben, there's something coming here that like, we got to move, you know. I said, and it was repeating. Okay. So just to kind of interpret like the way I got, so I don't see everything. I don't know everything. I'm certainly not all knowing. I didn't know it was going to be COVID. I didn't know how it was going to become. And I didn't know exactly when it was going to come, but I knew it was imminent. So I just want to share with you.
This is the energy of it.
This is
how it felt.
It was the energy and the feeling, and it's happening now. Okay. So
it felt like us running away from the Nazis.
It did. Exactly. So I just want to share with you the way I receive information and the way it comes in for me. And I don't always know exactly what it means or 100% how to interpret it. The other thing with the information that I receive is I'm always told that you're being shown a potential future, and that we always we have the ability to change and influence certain things. And with that, I do want to say God's in control of everything. You know, we are created in the image and likeness of God. We do have the ability to create reality to a certain extent, but I also want to really emphasize that God's ultimately in control. And I think it's important to understand spiritual hierarchy, or we get out of whack. So that being said, as far as the visions and what I'm being shown, and it's just...
So actually, we've had 3 people so far ask, what is the worst case scenario timeline, so we can prep?
Yeah. Okay, so that's what I'm going to get into. So, and I'm sorry, you guys, it's not, I just want to speak this. This is heavy for me. This is not something I like talking about. It's not something I enjoy talking about, and I hesitate to share it because I do understand the power of our ability to create reality. Now,
and again,
now,
whatever's, if this timeline is going to be shifted, it's going to be because all of you spoke up.
All of us got really, really loud,
Yeah,
and it's also going to be by the grace of God. Okay, but okay, what I want to, sorry, I'm going to try to transmit something, so it's going to take me a moment to get it out. So just bear with me. Sorry. Thank you so much. So what I want to emphasize is that, you know, the last time I received the transmission that I received, I did not share it publicly. Okay. I shared it. Sometimes I would share it in a really small group at my retreats or with private clients, but this was not something that I shared in a large group, and for a number of reasons. Okay. So it's a heavy thing for me to share. Okay. But I also feel that it's important for me to share, because if I share and it doesn't happen, praise God, and I pray to God it doesn't happen. Okay. And I believe that there's a lot of different ways that perhaps it may not happen. Okay. But if I don't share what I'm being shown and it does happen, I'm going to feel the heaviness and the weight of that because I have been shown. Okay. And I don't have heaviness on me. So, okay. So that being said, one of the major concerns that I have, and I don't know exactly the details of how this is going to play out, I have some major concerns about the water supply and the food supply. I believe that we're going to see, I don't know how it's going to come to fruition, you guys, but I believe that there's a high likelihood of us seeing a serious poisoning of the water. Now, the water's already been severely tainted, as we all know, okay? But this is something more serious, okay? And I believe that there's some plan of action right now that they would love to carry out, okay, that would basically poison the water and then restrict our ability to buy water. Now that would make everybody really, really sick, really, really fast, okay? And it's heavy. It's a heavy one. And to be honest, that's one I've been shown for many years. And it is the reason that I said we've got to have our own private water source, and we've got to have clean water. Okay, and that's why it's one of the biggest reasons we picked Synergy and the area and location we're in. Okay, I don't know exactly what to do about that one if you guys are not in a space where you can move, but I just have to share it. The other one is obviously food supply, which we're already seeing. You know, we're seeing this as just the first phase of this, but the restrictions in the food supply. We're seeing it in toilet paper and water are the main ways that they're showing it first. But I believe that we're going to see a lot more restrictions in the food supply, and this is of serious concern. The other things that I'm seeing is that there are many people right now, and this one was heartbreaking, but I'm being shown this one repeatedly in a vision, okay? There are many people right now on the planet who are saying loudly, okay, declaring loudly, no, I will never be vaccinated. No, I will never get the chip. And there are many people on the planet that are there's going to come a point, what I'm being shown, I pray to God this changes, okay? But what I'm being shown is that there are many people on the planet that say that right now, but that there's going to come a point where it will be so detrimental that they will be so backed in a corner that they will feel like there's no other way, that they're going to get it. They're going to get it. And it is not going to be good. And for people getting the chip, you know, this has been prophesied in the Bible, in the book of Revelation, that the people that got this chip are, you know, it's not just the mark of the beast and now they're Luciferian and all this, whatever. It's also that there's serious health implications that come with all of this. And it speaks about them breaking out in sores and, I mean, all these, the health complications that come with it. And I see that coming into play in a very, very real way. So my concerns are, you know, with the US, and it's one of the reasons that we got out of the US a while ago, was that everyone is in debt. Almost everyone in the US is in some kind of debt slavery. So if you have a mortgage payment, or you have a rent payment, or you have a car payment, or you have, you know, the credit card debt and all of that, there's this debt slavery system, and that's really heavy. And what their agenda is and their push is to enslave everyone to such an extent that if you don't do what they say, then you're going to be kicked out of your home, your mortgage is going to be taken away, you're not going to be able to buy and sell. That's basically it in a nutshell. And so, you know, what Ben and I are looking at, and the question that I've been in, is if it does get to the point that they want to take it to, and I do believe that that's what they're pushing for 1000%. It's going to be up to us to wake up sooner and pray to God that they don't get there. Okay. But if they carry that out, they will take it to that extent. They absolutely will. I truly believe that. Where I'm going and looking at is, and I think the people of Costa Rica have led by such an example in this without even consciously probably realizing it, many of them, is that they're not in the debt slavery that we're in. So if they have their home, almost all of them own it. It might be a shack on the side of the road that they piece together, but they own it. They're not in debt slavery. If they own a vehicle, most of them own a motorcycle, but they own it outright. They grow the food in their backyard and they have clean water. So for them to be able, and they don't have a problem rising up against their government. That's what they do. They don't like something, they just stand in the streets. They don't go to work, they don't go to school. All of them get together and they say, we're not doing it. So I've seen them do it. I've seen them do it more than once, you guys. Okay. So I have a strong belief that they're not owned, right? So I have a strong belief that, I'm not saying Costa Rica is perfect, you guys. It's definitely not. But I do have a strong belief that there are certain places on the planet where if you're not enslaved, if you're like, hey, I got my home, I got my food, I've got clean water, I don't need the mark, not taking it.
See y'all in a couple years.
See y'all in a couple years when everybody else, you know.
Get it sorted out.
And it's going to look different for everybody. I mean, some of you might not feel the pull to move. Some of you might be like, no, my family's here. I need to stay here in the US. But I would encourage you to, what can you do? Who can you band together with? How can you stock up? I mean, even if, you know, for example, here in Florida on Black Hammock Island, they have these private artesian wells. Are there any places in your area where you can at least get a private well? I want you guys to start thinking about, can you stock up on food? What can you do? What steps can you take? You know, to prep for this in case they do take it to that extent. And what groups can you band together with because if they start coming for you, we're not going to be able to defend. You're going to have to get together with a group, and you're going to have to come at it hardcore, and we're going to have to be prepared to come at it hardcore, which is why we need to go hard right now. So who can you band with? And that's why I've been saying, you know, if you're already in a church, band together with your church. What organization can you band together with? Because it's going to have to be a unification process. You're going to have to get involved in politics. You're going to have to be writing in your to your governor and your senators. And I can't tell you how many, you know, petitions I've signed that were going out to different senators and governors in Florida right now. I'm putting out whatever I can put out. So what are those things? We're going to have to be speaking up more, really paying attention to what's going on to push back against this stuff as much as possible.
Yeah. And so, you know, Jen kind of dipped into the worst case scenario, you know, and there's, you know, I'll take it back just a little bit to go a little bit, to connect the dots a little more with this, you know, this Bill Gates ID 2020 patent number. And then the other one is, so ID 2020 is one. his chips that he wants to, have your ID and your chip and all that. But then his patent number 060606 is his cryptocurrency, right? 666, mark of the beast, right? Very funny, everybody. Okay, all right, we've noticed. And so, everyone's gonna have this to buy or sell, and or to travel, right?
To
So
travel.
we're not gonna be able to fly. So if you've got friends, family, parents, business, properties in other countries, you're not gonna be able to get there. You're not, like Jen was saying, most people, we're all going to say, I ain't going to get that chip. You ain't going to chip me. You ain't going to give me that vaccine, but seriously, like, think ahead. Okay, I can't make money. I can't do any banking without this chip because it's all like, there are no more banks. There's no more cash money. It's all digital.
Right.
It's all in my arm. Or not in my arm. It should be in my arm. It's got to be in my arm. I don't have it. I'm out of water. I'm out of food. I need to get that government stimulus check.
So it's going to be death or the mark, basically.
Right. And then we're going to be getting more and more pissed off, and we're going to start screaming on social media, and we're going to be getting blocked. Right. We're going to be losing our Facebook accounts and our YouTube accounts. We're going to be getting censored. And then, they're, again, worst case scenario, right? Then they show up at our door and say, hey, thanks to in pursuant with Bill HR 6666, throwing the mark of the beast in your face all over the place, right? Bill 6666, and we need you didn't get your chip 666 chip, so we are going to take your kids. It says here, 6666, that you were, this is what the contact tracing is, right? The app or the new update that you all just got on your phone is starting to allow for the groundwork to be built for the contact tracing, so they can trace you all over the place and see who you've. The bill right now it's just been introduced. It still has to go through the House and then the Senate, and then it ends up on the president's desk.
They've spent like $200 billion on this thing.
Yeah. So they're going to say, okay, so see here, this person here just tested positive for coronavirus. It shows you were here with this person, and so that means that that's why we're here, because you now have the Rona. And we need to remove you for 2 weeks to go to this camp, right? We need to quarantine you for your own safety. And again, as they said, I forget which. Do you remember which state this was in? It was one of the mayors.
Ventura County in California. It was
one of the mayors that said if you have more people than bathrooms, then we're going to have to remove people from your house, because everyone needs their own bathroom.
And that was actually their health.
That's what he said. It's on TV. Okay, so sorry, we need to remove you. And we're like, you weren't going to remove me. And they're like, sorry, it's the law. The police are here. You don't have a choice. They're literally hiring people for this position right now. They're hiring contact tracers for this position right now. Like, it's already in motion. I've seen videos of them removing people from their houses for their own safety. For their own safety, we need to take you to the doctor to get a mental check. And they're like, dude, the only thing I need help from is you.
Right.
Sorry, you're going in cuffs. There's nothing you can do about it. Nope, I'm gonna fight it. Well, sorry, if you fight it, now we're gonna arrest you. Now we're gonna take you away for a month. Okay, well, fine. What happens to my wife and kids? Well, your wife will go to a woman's treatment facility, and your kids will go to a children's treatment facility. And I don't know if y'all saw the video from the WHO on the WHO. I can post this on the page. There's a video of a official at the WHO saying we're going to need to remove people from homes for their own safety. And there's also a video of the Queen of England saying, we're going to need to remove people from the homes, from your homes for your own safety. You know, it's just a sacrifice we have to make. The Queen of England is saying that, guys. This isn't a fucking conspiracy. You know, like if you guys, if you, I mean, it's easy to watch. Oh, it's Alex Jones saying it versus like, wait, did the Queen of England just say that? Did the guy from the WHO, from the WHO, just say that? Oh, did the state of health official just say it?
When they say it so
Like,
nonchalantly.
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly. Like, what else do
like,
we?
did
Like,
you hear that? This is crazy.
is anyone paying attention? Like, I mean, if it's like it's almost like most people are
Literally,
like,
I can't hear it.
it's like, okay, guys, let's think ahead. If let's just say all this stuff that we've said was going to happen is going to happen, how do you think they'd be saying it? Of course, they say it nonchalant, as though it's like just totally duh, it's for your own good. How do you think they're going to say it like an evil villain in a Bond movie or something? We're going to remove you from your homes. Like, that's what they're fucking waiting for. Like, guys, the video's out there. The Queen of England said it, for Christ's sake. She straight up said it. She said we're going to remove children. It's a sacrifice we have to make. I'll post the fucking video right now when Jen starts talking. I'll do it right now. What do you
Are
got?
there any other, I think you said
Oh,
all that
I'll
needed to
do
be
it
said
afterwards.
about that. Are there any other questions?
Oh yeah, and so I see someone says, you know, I'm armed. That's good. You know, get
It's
armed.
good. Yeah, be armed.
The thing is,
know how to
if
use a
you're
gun.
armed, you have to be trained as well.
Know how to use a gun.
There are
That's
online
important.
courses you can take for like $1. Like I saw one that it was like coming up on my feed. It was like, you know, all this tactical training. Like you have to know what kind of gun to shoot inside, how to use it. You have to practice ahead of time. You know, when I got every time I get some new guns, I'm always playing with them. And Jen's like, you're making me nervous. And I'm like, babe, I've gotta know my gun. Cause if I, you know, hear something in the middle of the night, I gotta know how to use it. I gotta know how to load it, how to cock it, how to change my magazine. I've got to know how to use it, right? You got to know, but not just that, you've also got to know when to use it, when not to use it, where to put it, where to hide it, where to, you know, how to talk to the police. You know, I mean, we're lucky to be in Florida right now where, you know, it's like high capacity magazines and assault rifles are okay. So, you know, we've got we've got AR-15. Our neighbor across the street has an AR-15.
It's Redneck Central. I love it.
Our neighbor 2 houses down from him has an AR-15, and we all know how to use them, right? And we all have an agreement.
Everybody's got their guns.
And everyone's paying attention to HR 666, and they're like, I'd like to see him come, you know? And so we're not alone, you know? We're not going to be in our house alone, and none of us are going to let, you know, somebody come and take the other's kids, you know? Mm-hmm. Now, I think it's all going to happen in California first. You know, it's going to happen in some of these, you know,
California, New York,
some of these
Washington.
the Democrat, you know, Democrat-run places. It's going to happen there first. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I'm trying to get on a boat out of here. But anyway, so again, just, you know, the point of all this is not to be in fear. I don't want to ruin your night. Everyone, get out of the fear. It doesn't have to happen. You can be smart enough. Get a garden. Plant a garden. If you don't have a yard, plant one inside. There's vertical gardens.
I would really figure out some long-term water source.
Figure out water. Move somewhere that has well.
Water's going to be big, you guys. I hope I'm wrong, but
get a place with a yard.
It feels like a really big one. Water and food. Yep.
I would highly recommend moving to a Republican state. And
if you're going to stay in the U.S.
I keep seeing people say every call, I'm like, I never thought I'd go Republican. And you know, we're kind of in the same boat. It's funny, like we've been, you know, we've kind of identified as, I mean, we haven't really identified as anything.
Well, we lived in California.
We've leaned more towards,
well, not that we ever like
Hillary
or anything, but
now we're like shooting our guns in the air. You know, like, okay, I'll be a Republican. You know, like Jen says, like band together with people who are actually going to do something, because the Democrats ain't going to do shit. Democrats are going to throw you under the bus. They're already doing it. It's the Democrats that are passing this bill. Yeah. The 6666 bill. They're putting $100 billion into throwing your ass under the bus and taking your kids out of your home. Mm-hmm. So yeah. So again, you know, yeah, exactly. So, you know, what we've got to do, guys, we've got to fight. We've got to stand up. We've got to get loud. We've got to
Prepare.
We've got to prepare. We've got to talk. We've got to. If you're afraid of this timeline, if you're in fear of this timeline, transmute that fear into
Get it out.
Facebook posts.
Get it out.
Into truth. Into information collecting, if you have to. And
yeah, and as far as timing,
it's
I mean,
all out there.
we're out of time. I mean, I'm seeing, next 2 years, honestly, I think there's a high likelihood that the next 2 years are going to be pretty rough. Because, and this is why, because everything's speeding up right now. The game is speeding up on both sides. The Great Awakening is here. That's speeding up. Hallelujah. That's great. But this is a chess game, and the other team is speeding up too. And they are desperate. So, and they have a lot of money and a lot of influence. And so we've got to be smart, but my concern is the next 2 years, I think are going to have a high likelihood of being really rough. And that's why I would say prepare now. Like don't start into, get what can you do right now to really prep for what could potentially be coming, and how can you use this time to wake up as many people as possible to speed up the positive timeline, basically.
And iPhone here
positive outcome.
asks, I don't understand how this can be defeated or outlasted. So here's the thing: the farther we go, the longer we go, the harder it's going to be to get out of it.
Yep.
Yep. Because they take away our rights, but they don't give them back. And this is what part of my post
that's the way they operate. Yeah.
This is what my post was the other day, is that they take your rights and they don't give them back, just like they did on 9/11, where they passed the Patriot Act and that allowed them to start to create the NSA and start spying on all of our phone calls and text messages and emails and just complete government overreach in the name of terrorism, fighting terrorism to keep us safe. It also created the TSA overreach that now gives us the experience that we have when we fly. We have to go stand in a long line. It goes for an hour. We're late for our flights. Nobody cares. They hassle you. You have to go through these like DNA altering machines. Take your shoes off. Take your belt off. We got kids crying. We're missing our flights. Like that happened because of 9/11, and they're checking for box cutters.
Never went back. Never changed. And we never got that back.
We never got those rights back. They're not shutting down the NSA anytime soon. They're not closing up the TSA. No, it's like that forever now. Mm-hmm. And now it's the same thing that's happening with COVID-19. They're taking away our rights. They're saying, okay, now you all are conditioned that when we say stay inside, or we say jump, or we say wear a mask, or we say stand 6 feet apart, like it even matters. You're standing 6 feet apart, and then the people it's like, all right, you're standing on these dots in the checkout aisle, and there's like one person at the register, one person 6 foot back, and then one person standing in the middle of the aisle that there's 30 people walking past. Like
it's total insanity.
None of it, so they're just like, they're doing all these kind of insane things, and everyone's like, oh, yes, master. Yes, master. It's like, dude, no, like our grandparents died for our rights. Our grandparents died for our freedom. And we're just like, oh no, I'm so scared. Take my rights. And you know what? Our grandkids.
Give me freedom or give me death.
And that's what I told someone today. I was like, dude, your grandkids are going to have to go to war to get back the rights that you just gave up, And so, we've got to be hard-headed. We've got to be strong. We've got to be loud. We got to be sharp. We got to be aware. We got to pay attention.
We got to track. You got to track everything that's going through and really pay attention to what's going on and push back.
And Jen wrote a pissed off post today because of all these ridiculous people that and she was basically like, look, 20 years from now, how are your kids going to feel about how you acted right now? Did you throw their are they proud of what you did? Did you throw their rights under the bus that they're now still fighting for? Or did you,
well, I see a lot of people still choosing comfort, in the US, and not just in the US, in a lot of the developed world, we've been conditioned to choose comfort over sovereignty. And that is a serious concern. You know, it really is. It's a really big deal.
Oh, you guys are posting some awesome stuff. Yeah.
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 There,
you guys.
Is there any other questions, or do we miss
Probably.
anything?
I'm thinking. I'm thinking we're kind of wrapping it up here.
Okay.
Yeah, guys. You know, make your kids proud. Make yourself proud. Like, really look at this. Like, I've got the opportunity to change history right now. You know, like I really look at this every day. I kind of think, all right, if I was in Nazi Germany, what role would I have played? What would have been my role? You know, I saw a video one time of it was this guy that in Nazi Germany saved hundreds, here you can read through this. He saved hundreds of Jews and like saved their lives, risked his life to save their lives. And so I saw they invited him onto some TV show. They didn't tell him what for. He's sitting in the front row as in the audience. I don't know if you've seen this. And then the host or whatever is like talking about this guy, and he's waving. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? He's like, and then the guy's like, every person here is a descendant of someone you saved.
Wow.
Every person in the audience is a descendant of somebody that man saved.
Wow.
Somebody that risked their life.
It's incredible.
Risked their life. People were dying for this every fucking day in Nazi Germany, you guys.
Wow.
Every day, people were dying for this. Like, really risking their life. And we can't even risk our emotions posting shit on Facebook. Do you know what I mean? So, like, what role are we really playing? And right now, it is an information war. So we don't have to pick up guns right now. We don't have to rescue people and hide them under the floorboards and, create false IDs and false passports and pay people off and run them through borders and have hideout stations and ways to get food and ways to, transport kids and keep babies quiet without, risking death. We don't have to do that right now. We might later, but we won't have to if we get loud.
And the
now.
more active we are right now, the less of that type of stuff we're going to have to do later.
What I love, so my parents fled communism.
Wow.
Wait, where did that go?
It's right there. My parents fled
communism. My parents fled communism, and I've lived in a communist country.
Wow.
I see the signs, and
Wow.
I know all about this.
Wow.
So I've got friends from Germany. I've got friends from, I've got friends from a lot of these different countries that they're the ones posting about it, and I'm like, you go, man. You like anyone?
You should definitely be posting.
This chick's from Germany. She said it. Okay, yeah. Don't listen to them. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
So again, right now, World War III, it's an information war. We didn't have this ability in Nazi Germany to post all over the place and see different points of view. Germany bad. Germany's doing some crazy stuff. Maybe we should stop them. The Jews are going to camps. It would have been hearsay. Can you imagine all of them that are like getting the hearsay about, oh wait, Jews are getting exterminated? Can you imagine them where they're like
killed?
Can you imagine?
Even the term exterminated,
I know, it's horrible,
is freaky.
Right?
Yeah,
that's a weird term.
Sick. Sick.
I feel gross.
Anyways,
right now.
that's okay. Well, that was the term that they used though.
Right.
Yeah.
So can you imagine hearing that come through and you're like, I don't believe it. La 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 la. La 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 la. Don't want to hear it. Thanks. Sorry. You're a conspiracy theorist.
There were a lot of people that I'm sure were doing that. That was going on. There's
so
no way
right
that
now
wasn't
we
going on.
don't have an excuse because this is an information war. And so we have the information and we really can't make the excuse this time. So anyway.
And as far as just addressing, you know, what's going on, in my opinion, from a spiritual perspective, is from a higher dimensional truth, is that we are in the graduation time. We are in harvest. We are in the Great Awakening. We are in the ascension, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of different names for this time frame. It has been prophesied in so many different texts throughout the ages. You know, different prophets of different times have spoken about this time for a long time, and we are in it. And so at the end of the day, what I see is that, you know, harvest is going to happen one way or the other, but it's just like with graduation, you know, you're going to go through a series of tests and trials in order to be prepared, in order to be complete, in order to experience the completion, right? And so this that awakening, it's really to get us to that point of again, you want to call it awakening, or you want to call it ascension, or you want to call it spiritual adulthood. I like the term spiritual adulthood. We've got to step into spiritual adulthood. That's the term that's been given to me the strongest. You know, when I pray and I meditate, that's the language that they share with me, is humanity must transition into spiritual adulthood. And God is very patient, and he will have his harvest, right? The universe will wait for us to get into spiritual maturity, no matter what. It can look really messy getting people into spiritual maturity. It can look really uncomfortable getting people into spiritual maturity, but it will put you through the series of, you know, tests and trials. And those of us that are in this community, we're a little bit ahead of the curve, right? We've already been through a lot of tests and trials. You wouldn't be here if you hadn't already been through that. But everybody that's got to go through this and that's going to go through this ascension process, not everybody's going to make it this round. Not everybody's going to make it this round. Not everybody's meant to. I also think that's part of it. But, you know, I think there are a lot that are going to make it, but this is why we've got to do our job here, because I think that's what's going to speed up the process. The process is coming. The process is happening. We are in it. How yucky or bad it's going to be, I think, is dependent, you know, how far it's got to be pushed, how far the service to self path is going to keep going until there's a certain point and the harvest is reached, right? Until there's a certain point and all that are meant to be in spiritual adulthood get there, or all that are meant to be awakened get there, right? There's different language on this, but to me, it all essentially means the same thing. And that's why our role here is so important and so valuable, because the more people that we can awaken, get into spiritual adulthood, get integrated ahead of time, the more of us that can step into that, you know, I think the more we can speed up the timeline, and the more that we can, some of the horrors and atrocities, maybe we could go through. We don't have to go through. But again, that bypass thing is going to come from the awakening and the awareness and the integration now. It's not going to come from the love and light spiritual bypass. I'm just like holding space energy. Some people might be called to hold that. And I think there are people on this planet that are truly just going to hold a higher dimensional space, and that's okay. And they know who they are, but that's not what this group is all about.
So is this the question you're talking about here? I don't think you are, but you're nailing it. But I wanted to say here, Wendy Young says her family hid under their house in Romania for 2 years.
Whoa, thank you.
Actually, Wendy, can I pull you on? Can you talk about that?
Can you share about that?
Do you mind talking about that?
That's a big deal.
Because like this is real.
This is real. This happens.
We should probably have. Actually, we should.
Really
I want to get Rowan talking about it too.
I mean, I'm fine going over. Obviously, anybody's free. You know, some people have already gotten off. Anybody's free to leave when they want to. But if people want to stay on,
if you two can talk about it in a minute,
I would like to hear.
I want to answer. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say your name. I'd love to hear you pronounce it. Rowan. I'd love to hear you pronounce your name. Says, because it's an important one. Says says, can you two comment on the Lightworker community, that we are all just going to ascend into 5D and we don't have to worry about, this is exactly what Jen was just talking about.
That's not how spiritual adulthood works.
And that we don't have to worry about the darker timelines, basically. So here's,
it's false light. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna call a spade a spade.
This is the biggest damage that the movie The Secret did to us, and a lot of these the light worker industry has done, which is they all just sit there and meditate and they don't do anything and they want to spread love and light, but they're broke and they can't, you know, they're
well, some of them are the transformational leaders in the industry are doing that, quite honestly. There's a lot of people that are high level transformational leaders, who are not speaking up about this at all. So the wheat and the chaff are separating right now, but you know, there are a lot of people that pretend to be in what we call a dimension 7. I'll just call it 7D. That's our language for it that we've been given. We go over this stuff really deep in 5D business school, and there's a lot of you in the group going through this, but you know, 7D is like what we would consider, you know, Jesus or a Buddha or whatever. Okay. And there's a lot of false, there's a lot of people that are very, very good and very trained at regurgitating what they think 7D should be, but they have bypassed 5 and 6. They went straight from 4, which is spiritual adolescence, to pretending to be in 7. And so we've had a false map by some of the biggest leaders, and I'm actually not going to name names because I know a lot of them and I've hung out with them privately. I'm actually deliberately not going to name your names, but if you're paying attention to what they're not speaking about, you're going to know who they are pretty quickly. These people have not gone through 5D, which means they have not actually gone through young spiritual adulthood. They've bypassed it. They've spiritually bypassed it. I can see them really clearly right now. It's been very disappointing to me. It's been very disheartening to me, quite honestly. And you know, some of these people we've known for years. And by the way, you guys, they're not bad people either. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. It's why I'm not deliberately not naming names. It's irritating
because we could use them right now.
It's frustrating because some of these people have millions of followers, have a massive ability of influence, and they're too scared to speak up because, you know, whatever's going on for them. Okay.
It's their business. They're worried about their business.
Their money, their business. Well, they said this one thing and now, you know, Ben and I were not Trump supporters. You guys know this. Okay. I don't have a problem changing my opinion when I'm given other information. But there are a lot of people in the industry that
do. Saying we're wrong.
Or saying I'm wrong because I have been wrong. Okay. And I'm also not, Christine Northrup is a good one. And I'm also not saying that Trump is perfect or Trump is a false god. I think it's important to not falsely idolize anyone, but the wheat and the chaff are separating. And if you're following and tracking who these people are supporting or not supporting, or what they're supporting or what they're not supporting, it starts to get pretty easy to tell what's actually going on. This spiritual bypassing, I think there are a number of people on the planet that are truly here to hold love and light. And the ones that are holding it, they're going to hold it. You're going to know when they're holding it because they're going to actually be in it.
Yep.
The majority, it's real love and light, and it's rare on this planet right now. Okay. And Ben and I'm not there, you guys. And that's not my calling right now. I truly wish I was, but I'm not. That's not where I'm in. There are a ton of people falsely professing that they're in love and light and spiritual and it's all easy and it's all just being high vibration, and that's complete and total BS. If we were meant to be in that, most of the people that are meant to be in that, you would not be in the same
I like to see it as, okay, let's take this person who wants to love and light their way out of any responsibility of having to be confrontational or have a voice or a point of view, and meditate all day, and plant them right in the middle of Nazi Germany. All right. Love and light your way out of this, asshole. Thanks for not doing anything for the last 2 decades while this shit was just slowly building up and you were busy loving and lighting your way, you know, on drugs and plant medicine and and all this stuff. And like the point of all this plant medicine is like to snap you awake and then go back to the real world and make a difference. That's what it's for. But like, okay, put them in the middle of, the concentration camp, and okay, good. Now their role is to be love and light in the concentration camp. Okay, it's a good role. Somebody's got to do it, but not the role I'm here to play, So anyway, I would love to hear from Rowan or Wendy, actually, just to hear about your experience. I'd love to hear what you know. I'd love to hear your family's experience, guys. Yeah. I mean, if you guys could learn, if we could all learn from these experiences, can I pull you on, Rowan? I'd love to pull you on here.
Yeah.
I think that we could all learn from like real world experiences and history, because history does repeat itself. And I think that, we get into what's called normalcy bias, where we think that that what's normal is going to keep happening. And then, we forget what's happened before. So I think it's good to be reminded of, wait a second, so this really does happen. So Rowan, I'm gonna pull. Actually, can we see your video? Is that okay? I'm gonna unmute your audio, and then I'd love to see you on video too, if that's possible. Hi.
Do you hear me?
I hear you. I can hear you. Hi. Oh, I see you too. Hey.
Thank
you so much. So I want to know your family's experience. I want to know. Actually, let's start from the beginning. What were the first signs, like before it became a huge deal, before it was totally obvious to anybody, nobody could argue it? How did they know at the beginning what was starting? Uh-oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, say that again.
Where are you right now, by the way?
I am in Central Oregon, which is not the best place to be. I'm thinking about getting out of here. Governor Kate Brown is just a disaster. Yeah, so.
And then where, you said it was your parents, and where were they?
My parents came from what was then the Czech Republic, or Czechoslovakia. They're both recently passed away, but I did live in Prague right before the Velvet Revolution. So I had a pretty clear sense of what was going on there. I was raised very much biculturally. I changed my name. That's why I have a Celtic name. I also have a Celtic background. What can I say? I mean, I see this stuff happening, and it's very difficult to watch because people are just not getting it.
What specifically are you seeing as similarities?
Things like the propaganda. I actually crossed over into Shasta and this is maybe a small thing, but not that small. There was literally a sign right in front of when you get into Mount Shasta, California, that said, "Is what you are doing essential?" It was like when I was in Czechoslovakia and living there in Prague, there was slogans everywhere. There was literally banners that had political propaganda everywhere. And when I drove into Shasta, I saw that like posted in front of a gas station, and I just went into shock because it was like, this looks exactly like the propaganda banners that they would have in Czechoslovakia. And when I was there, I was living in my grandmother's apartment. I was in between, I was waiting for college. So I was kind of in between. I had transferred and I was waiting. And this is the reality. People were working full-time at the jobs that were assigned. And literally, like when you would go to the store, it would be like paying $100 for a loaf of bread. I am not joking. I mean, like a little wheat roll was close to 1,000 crowns, and the salaries were like around 3,000 crowns a month. I was having to buy things on the black market just to get the basics like coffee and sugar. I obviously had American dollars, so I wasn't completely, without. But the thing that was the hardest was the absolute depression and the sense of hopelessness. And you know, people had no hope. I mean, there was just like, you were trapped. You were in the job that was given to you, and there was no out. And I literally had to get out of the country because I was becoming so depressed, I couldn't even cope. Because people had given up. There was just no options. Buying a vegetable was next to impossible. I mean, if you could find a piece of fresh fruit, it was like, oh my God, and it would cost you the equivalent of about $100 to buy like a, you know, a green pepper or a tomato. People just don't see what's happening. They're like, oh yeah, go ahead and take our rights away. No, they don't give them back. They don't give them back. And I mean, I honestly, I'm just trying to figure out what to do because I see what's going on. And yeah, I don't know. I think I'll try to figure something out. But for me, it's kind of frightening because I'm watching people buy the propaganda. I'm watching people listening to the mainstream news. I'm seeing it. I've educated myself. And I recognize it because I saw it when I lived in Czechoslovakia. I mean, it's like the same. My parents were so traumatized by escaping the country that I never got the full story before they died. They couldn't even talk about it.
Wow.
I don't even know the whole story. I know that they were in refugee camps. I know that the only reason that they got out was because my dad was very much a liberal, and he had written democratic articles. You know, he was publishing underground. He was jailed. He was kicked out of college and university. He was forced to work as an auto mechanic to kind of make up for it and get back on track so he could go back to college for political dissent. And literally they escaped because one day the border was open. They weren't patrolling the border.
Wow.
And they walked across with nothing. They had no money, no clothes, nothing. They just literally happened to get across. And they came to the US with $10, no English, no family. And my mother never spoke to her parents before they died. Never. They never knew what happened to her. I mean, this is things that, you know, because it wasn't safe, family members were interrogated and jailed to try to find out where they'd gone. You know, I grew up with that. I grew up with that knowledge and that shadow of communism. And I'm watching this now. I'm like, what do I do? I don't want to go through that. My parents thankfully recently passed away, so they don't have to see this, which I think is a blessing. But I'm here, I have no family, and I see this stuff. So I don't know what to say except we don't want to live in that kind of political system. That is not something that anyone wants to experience. I lived in the Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia then, for 6 to 9 months, right before the Velvet Revolution, and I had to get out. I couldn't tolerate it. I mean, I was getting like suicidally depressed.
Yeah,
That
make you depressed.
Let's see, I was in my early 20s. Don't remember the exact year, but I literally left and I got to England like 6 weeks before the revolution, which I'm really upset about because I was like right there in Prague.
You bailed too early.
I bailed too early. I was, but I didn't know it was going to happen. So whenever that was, it was 30 years ago. But this stuff is real, you know, it's very real.
It was only 30 years ago.
Yeah, this stuff is very real and very fresh. Thank you.
I mean, we were alive then,
yes.
guys.
Yeah.
Like
we were alive during this time period.
History, yet we forget so quickly.
Yeah, we don't pay attention.
Wow,
That's
what a
huge.
story! I'd love to
Wow.
talk with you about actually doing a longer interview.
Yeah.
I can interview you for on my Facebook page.
That would be great.
That'd be
That's
awesome.
a great idea.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I
God bless
appreciate your
you.
story. This
Oh
is
my
great.
God.
I feel like this is a good primer. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
You're welcome.
Wendy, can I talk to you, Wendy?
And that's the thing, just really quickly, this is what I want to emphasize too, is that nutshell energy, that's what I'm being shown, guys. Energetically, that's what I'm being shown. Okay. So this is what I want to encourage you to do before it gets to that point. you've got to make really big moves now, not later. Okay? That's what I'm saying. I don't want to scare anybody, but it's going to be easier to make the move now, even if it's scary, than later. It's going to be harder later. So if you're feeling a pull to go somewhere, pray, ask God. There are going to be pockets on this planet where things are going to be different than what's going on. Okay? And if you're feeling a pull to move or a pull to unify, you've got to do it now. I'm in Costa Rica for a reason, you guys. We moved our family. We moved everything. We did not have an internet-based business. We didn't sell everything. We gave everything away.
Yeah, we left it all behind. We had a 5,000 square foot house.
You guys, we were living on a $7 million property. Okay.
600 square foot guest house. We had a garage full of stuff. We left it
We
all
just
behind.
left it all
We packed
and
our bags and we
moved.
moved.
What are you willing to sacrifice now so you don't have to go through that? And if you feel it coming where you're at, then you need to move now, not later. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, a lot of people are asking where, we moved to Costa Rica for a reason.
I
feel
feel
like we
a
should
strong
probably,
pull to Costa
we've
Rica.
had so many people
Some people
asking
might
us.
feel pulled somewhere else,
we should probably do a call at some point on why we chose Costa Rica.
There's a number of
Because
reasons.
there's a lot of reasons. And we looked in many countries.
No.
And, there's a lot going on in the EU right now as well. So I don't know if you're going to want to be in the EU. Yeah, and there's no travel right now. This is why we're trying to get on a boat.
Yeah.
But as far as in the U.S., I would just say the higher up in the mountains, the better.
Yeah.
To be totally honest with you, in a Republican place, or we're here in Florida, and this is why we're in Florida was to start a new development on 12 acres here on Black Hammock Island. I didn't say it on the last one, but I'll say it just for fun. It's called Black Hammock Island here in Florida, and it's like out in the middle. You got to drive through. It's about 35 minutes away from the closest store, and you got to drive through this farmland. Everyone's got their guns. Yeah, it's going to be the last place. It's going to be the last place they go look for anyone. The road ends, and it's a T. One road goes this way, and the other one goes this way. At the end of this road is our little property there that we're here for, 12 acres. And so, that's another option. But anyway, okay, Wendy, thank you. I'm going to unmute you. Okay, Wendy, there you are.
Hi.
Did we get to see your video? Oh, you got you on video. There you are. Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for telling us the story.
I've never spoken about this publicly. Both sets of my parents, both of their parents were from Europe. My father's parents from Romania, my mother's parents from Czechoslovakia or Hungary. My mother was born in Paris. And she was born there in 1932. And so in, I guess, 37 or 39, somewhere around there, they actually fled Paris. They wanted to go to another country. They called, family in Czechoslovakia, I think, and to see if they could come there. And they basically said, no, don't come here. It's really bad. So they left Paris on a boat, my grandparents, my mother and her sister, and they landed in the West Indies. And they were, for a total of 2 years, my grandfather went up to New York to get work up there in Brooklyn. He was a cantor. And my mother stayed with her mother. And the thing that my mom used to always say is that they used to stand in food lines. Told me this my whole life. They used to stand in food lines, and when they got up to the front of the line, there was no more. So So anyways, they finally were able to get up to New York. Now that's my mom's side of the family. And my grandfather's brother, he fought in the French Resistance. I don't know very much about that. We did have, I don't know how many family members were taken to the concentration camps, but we did lose family. My great-grandmother, who had come from Russia into Czechoslovakia, and then there were other family members. I just don't know exactly who they were. And my last remaining, my mother had an uncle who died a few years ago. He was 97. He never got married. I think it's because he just didn't want to have to deal with this so much trauma, you know, when you lose family in the camps like that. Never got married. He died very wealthy, but he didn't have a life. Then on my dad's side of the family, my grandmother, there were like 6 or 7 siblings. My great-grandfather brought my grandmother and one of her sisters to New York in about 1917, stayed there for a while to get, went back to Romania, and
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Can you tell us what were some of the signs that you were noticing, or that they were noticing? What were some of the signs that they were noticing? Like, what was happening leading up to all this, where they were like, "Oh, we've got to go," you know, or "Oh, something's really bad.
The red
Something's really bad."
flags.
What were the red flags?
you know, I haven't heard a lot about that, but there was a lot of anti-Semitism. And you know, it's like they just knew, oh, it was just getting worse and worse. And you know, France, in Paris, it wasn't as bad there, you know, as it was in Hungary and Czechia. And I think, and all that my mom and her family, they got out within months of Hitler's troops going into France. So that's that side of the family. The other side of the family, that was the family that lived under their house. My great-grandfather, he was a bricklayer. So it was really, you know, he was known. He was known around town. He had a lot of contacts around town, and because he was a bricklayer, he knew how they could get under their house, and somehow they arranged to have people, the contacts that they had contacts that helped them and brought them what they needed. I mean, I always think about Anne Frank, you know, and their family and how they hid out in their home. So it's just crazy to me how they were able to do this. And my grandmother never spoke of it. When I went to Israel 20 years ago, my great aunt, she told me a little bit about it. She and another sister never had children because they were still over there on that side of the world, and they were afraid that if they would have children, that they would be taken away from them.
Wow.
So they eventually all were able to make it over to Israel at some point. You know, there's so much, there's so many stories, there's so much, and you know, they both they experience similar things and different things, you know.
Right.
And it's,
thank you.
you know,
That's perfect. That's perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we do have to end the call, but I just want to thank you so much
for sharing
that. I know that, like, this is something that you know, I should probably I'd love to talk with you about doing an interview about this too. Like, this is something it does need to be talked about. there's so much to it. You know?
Right.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm going to ask some questions of my family now that, that
Oh,
you've
thank
asked
you.
me.
Yeah, please
Yeah.
do, and then
I want to know.
share.
I want to know what was leading
Thank
up
you.
to it. Like what were the,
Yeah.
I want to know what was leading up to it, and I want to know the
Right.
signs that they're seeing now that are like reminding them of like, hey, is anyone paying attention? This is history repeating
Yeah.
itself.
You know what the weird, I'll just say this real fast. The weird, I'm Jewish, obviously. I mean, I don't know if that was obvious, but a lot of so many of the Jewish people I know, they don't see it. That's the scary part.
Yep,
They think
exactly.
So many of the Christians I know don't see it. I'm like, have
Yeah.
you read the book? Have you read our?
Yeah.
It's like in our book we talk about. It's like it's fascinating. It is. It's really really fascinating. Right?
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you.
You're cutting out. You're cutting out. Okay. Thank you, Wendy. I see you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Wow, that was great.
Yeah.
Thank you both so much for sharing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's intense stuff.
Yeah, and I think, with this group, if there's anyone else watching this, that if you have information in your family or had some experiences, if
Post
you
them
could
in the group,
please start sharing in the group. Yeah, I think the more that we can share these kinds of resources and things, and that's, honestly, personal story and personal testimony on this stuff is, I think, going to be some of the most valuable. Sometimes some people can't hear the facts, but sometimes people from an emotional standpoint can hear other people's story, and I think it is a really good thing to start to get into more.
Yeah. So you guys, we were thinking the other day, so we were saying, well, we're not going to be talking about we're not going to be selling 5D Business School anymore after module 4 because we're doing it live, and it kind of gets to be too much to play catch up on past last week. And so, but Jen was like, well, it's, $4,500 off right now.
People can still go through it.
Because we're, going through what we're going through right now. And it will help, it'll help you speak. It'll help you find your truth. It'll help you find your voice. It'll help you get that out and, obviously be able to make money with it too.
Mm-hmm.
Connect to your life purpose and your consciousness and your awareness and all, it's got all these practices to build your awareness and to anchor in the higher dimensional information to the physical reality to create real results.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff's all important. It's great going through the course right now and seeing people get clients and seeing people bring in their life partners and seeing people, posting all their scary stuff.
Create their first program, right? Do their sales calls, getting themselves out there. And it's really more than anything, it's about people stepping into their truth. We're seeing a lot of posts, we're going into week 5 right now. In week 4, we're already seeing a lot of people getting into, they're really starting to speak their truth in a really powerful way.
Getting stuff out there they wouldn't usually have felt comfortable doing. And they're breaking the chains of, what we say, who owns you, who still owns you, who are you afraid that is going to see this?
Mm-hmm.
Who are you afraid that is going to, bust your chops for it? Those are the people that own you. So
yeah. So if you're called to it, if you want to know more, feel free to send us a private message.
So
I'm happy to share with you about
so
it.
even if you guys aren't on the calls right now, you
guys.
still have it. You have it forever.
It's
You
a
can go through it
90-day.
alone.
It's a 90-day program.
It's all online anyway.
Yeah.
It's super good.
Yep.
Anyway, you guys are amazing. I can't believe most of you lasted the full 2 hours.
No, thank you. Wow, it's a long call.
Yeah,
Thanks for being
you guys
here.
are awesome. Thanks for being here. Thanks for changing the world. I'll take you all off of mute.
God bless you all. Have a wonderful week.
Good night, everybody.
Bye. Good
night.
night.
You guys.
Good night. Thanks, you guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
God bless. Good night.